want to explain you the main settings of the photography that is more important to make good photos. So there is three important settings in photography. So first there is aperture of the lens. Secondly, the ISO, that is the light sensibility of the capture, and the shutter speed. And this is important to have the balance between three of them and have a good exposure and sharp pictures. So there is exposure triangle that explains you the balance between these three settings of photography. So I will explain in more detail each of the settings with photo example on macro photography. So first, the lens aperture. So I will show you with my Laowa macro lens. So I don't know if you can see this. So the aperture is the F number on that is written on the lens. These numbers. So you choose them with the turning ring. So the aperture describes how open is the lens and how much light to the lens will pass through it. So for example, an aperture of 1f1.4, let's double the amount of light pass through in comparison to f2.0. So I will show you the difference. More little is the numero. So 2.8. More the aperture is open. See the aperture here. And I am on the 2.8 and I will change the aperture. So you see the aperture is closed. So here I am on the 22. So less light pass through the lens. More light passed through the lens. The depth of the field describes the area in the picture that is sharp, it depending on the focal length and aperture. The depth of the field can be more narrow or wider. More f is little, more you will have light that pass through the lens. More open the aperture is, more light will pass through it, and the more shallow will the depth of the field be. So will be a blurred background, and the sharp area will be more little. So I will show you this because this is very complicated, and I think you will understand better in with examples. So I take fly that I found dead, and I will practice on this. So I will put my lens on my camera. So I will show you the difference between aperture with the mouse. This is very important to have light, because we lose very lots of light with macrophotography. So there is important to have light or LED. So I show you now when the aperture is 2.8 and the low aperture, so I go on the 8. So the aperture is more closed, so less light pass through. So I have to put high light to have more light. So I increase the light. So now I will show you the difference. So there is, when I have 8 aperture, and when I open the aperture, you see that we have less sharp area, and when you close, you have more sharp area, but you need more light. Oh, you need more light. So you see nothing on the so you see less, and this is darker than with 8. Here I am on 11, 8, 11, 8, 2.8. So you see there is not sharp, and sharp is only on the face and in the eyes. So you can see that the light is very important thing in the macro. When the magnification is to 2.1, the lens is in the borders, but when you have less magnification, it go back and less light enter on the lens. So here there is a ring of aperture. In this lens you can only choose it on the lens and not on the cameras. This is normal because this is entire manual lens. So you have to choose. It depends on the sharp you will have on the insect. Me, I have in studio the most of time in 4 or 5.6 aperture. I don't go on the low aperture because we lose so much light, and this is very difficult to shoot the animal, because we need more light, and the shutter speed will be less, and you have maybe the movement on the photos. The shutter speed determines how long the sensor will be exposed to the light, and it is usually measured in fractions of seconds, and the sensor is only exposed for very short amount of time. So more longer the shutter stays open, the more longer the sensor will be exposed to the light, and more bright the picture will be. While adjusting the shutter speed for your camera settings, keep in mind that movement also plays an important role. And if you are photographing moving objects like motor cars or birds with a long telelens, then you want a very fast shutter speed to avoid blurring of the subject. So the basic rule of the thumb is that the shutter speed shouldn't be slower than the reciprocal of your focal length. So for example, if you shoot with 50mm lens, then don't go slower than 1/50 seconds of the program, or the photograph will be blurred. So I will show you, but the most of time I shoot on studio with the tripod, so the shutter speed will be less important. But sometimes when you push the button, sometimes there is a moving a little, so when the shutter speed will be very slower, you can see the movement, and the photo will be blurred. So I choose my aperture on the lens. So here there is shutter speed. So there is 1/15 seconds. So I don't touch the aperture and the ISO. I just change the shutter speed. So I am on the 180. So the image is very dark. We see nothing. So I change I drop the shutter speed to 120. I don't change the other settings. So there is more, we see more things, but this is dark. So I drop, so you hear the clack when you drop the shutter speed. You hear the difference between the clap. So then when you drop shutter speed, you hear clap, and when you high in shutter speed, you hear clap. This is when the mirror open to the sensor.